What?
Patrick! From SpongeBob.
Huh?
Oh yeah, potato season. You much bigger outside 30 bucks.
I am the great Majin Buu.
Magic Boo.
Huh? No, Majin Buu.
Magic Boo.
Boo!
Boo.
Boo!
Boo.
Yes. Boo!
Liam!
No!
So, quick 10-second push. You can follow the development of my graphic novel on Indiegogo by joining the mailing list, and you'll be eligible for rewards when it launches. Other than that, apparently the MANGA-VERSE series isn't doing well according to the creator, as Shonen Jump expected it to be. Therefore, to generate more traffic for the series, reading the comic on the Japanese Shonen Jump website would be very preferable. Hell, you don't even have to read it, you just have to flip through the pages, and it generates revenue for the site, and telling Shonen Jump people are reading this. Anyway, quickly recapping what had happened in the MANGA-VERSE version of Spider-Man, ultimately what had happened here in this universe is that Peter Parker became Venom, and seemingly went off the rails doing God knows what. But eventually a Japanese kid named Yu Anamata that's apparently living in New York found Peter Parker's Spider-Man suit in the dumpster and decided to become Spider-Man because he's a good character that does good things because he's right and he does good and he's a hero. Now fast forwarding to where we last left off, there's this girl Yu wants to romantically be involved with. However, because he's an antisocial like myself, that isn't going to happen anytime soon. But the best he can do at this current time is to save her life because she's being abducted by people who recently robbed the bank and need a hostage because of course they do. Now continuing with that storyline, due to the nature of Spider-Man and Peter Parker's enhanced spider bite, he has enhanced speed, agility, strength, and etc, etc, etc. Now because Yu doesn't have any of those abilities being Spider-Man, it's more difficult to be Spider-Man. So in pursuit of trying to save his girl, or best woman, he has to take a taxi. But at the end of the day, because he isn't Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, because webs don't come out of Peter's body because that would be dumb, he is able to use Spider-Man's web shooter to do what he needs to do to save the woman that he loves. Now there is some cutesy pie LOL dialogue and we skip to the next scene because we don't need to know anything about the LOL cutesy pie dialogue. But to reiterate, the most interesting thing about this book is that only because you put on a superhero suit, your life doesn't go on hold, and you're not granted immunity from the whims and pains of real life. Therefore, our protagonist is genuinely hurt and in pain from being Spider-Man, and that's the use consequence for being Spider-Man. He suffers when he is Spider-Man, even though he does save people, and saving people is a good thing. But to add on to that additional suffering, the girl Yu likes, Emma, immediately finds out he's Spider-Man based on his injuries from the prior battle. But transitioning to Mary Jane really quickly, apparently she's been talking to Peter Parker, but the problem with that is Peter Parker turned into Venom, so the question becomes, who is Mary Jane talking to if Peter Parker is being, well, venomized? But the most likely answer to that question is that it's Ben Reilly or Kane Parker, Scarlet Spider, who are clones of Peter Parker, because as we'll find out later, Cindy Moon Silk is also in this book in this series. Now if you're wondering who Silk is, her character literally does not matter, as in the fact that she was bitten by the same spider that Peter Parker was bitten by, and that's pretty much it, besides the very fact that they used to go to school together, and the fact that she lived in an underground bunker for the majority of her life, and the fact that she also has organic webbing, which is pretty nasty. But returning to Yu and Emma, ultimately what happens here is that Yu tries his best to play it off and says he's not Spider-Man, and he uses the old, I'm not saying I'm Spider-Man, I'm just saying nobody has ever seen me and Spider-Man in the same room together excuse. And Emma agrees, saying there's no way that a white-knight cuckboy virgin like himself could be Spider-Man when his balls haven't even dropped yet. Until she tears into his backpack and discovers that she's right, and he is Spider-Man, and now plans her a very overcomplicated blackmail plan to get what she wants, which is to only help Spider-Man be Spider-Man in his Spider-Man-like endeavors of saving people, because she is too a good character that does good things for good reasons because they are good and right. Transitioning back to Peter Parker Spider-Man, who's still being venomized, this is where we get the flashback detailing the events that happened between Yu becoming Spider-Man and Spider-Man becoming Venom, and this accumulates with the very idea that Spider-Man is fighting against Matt Gargan the Scorpion, who is a nobody and loser that you really don't need to know about. He was robbing a bank or something. Now the fight goes on for a few pages, and of course Spider-Man wins at the very end, but because he's Spider-Man, he misses Mary Jane's theater performance, and he gets in trouble with his boss at work, who is J. Jonah Jameson, who is loud and yelly because why not? And of course he is, because he's a jackass. Then we get this pretty amazing photo of Peter Parker thinking about Uncle Ben, because this book knows how to Spider-Man better than the Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man movies do, as Peter Parker struggles with the duality of being Peter Parker and doing the right thing as Spider-Man, because no matter what he chooses, the answer and the solution will always suck, while simultaneously work out because that's what always happens in a Spider-Man comic, and the consequences are everlasting. But returning back to our homeboy Yu and his new girlfriend Emma, it's revealed that Yu sucks at everything and he's failing a majority of his classes in high school, which is fairly easy if you actually pay attention, write down notes, and take the tests and quizzes and do your homework. But because this is not the case for this character, Emma makes it her responsibility to make sure Yu doesn't stay stupid and pass all his classes so he can do better things as Spider-Man, because she thinks he's the original Spider-Man when he's really the new Spider-Man. But going throughout the process of tutoring him, because that's what good people do, help one another and be helpful because that is the good thing to do, very much like I said earlier. This leads into some romantic foreplay between the characters, leading into some LOL cutesy pie dialogue, and our main protagonist becomes more sociable as a person through Emma, through her connections with other people too, until Screwball shows up. Now for those people that don't know, when it comes to a character like Screwball, and I can't genuinely remember the last Marvel comic I read where her character was actually used in a very meaningful way, at the end of the day her character is someone that has a mental breakdown which causes a psychotic break from reality, which awakened her Screwball persona, creating an extreme need or dependency for people's approval and likeness, meaning that she does what she does because she's an attention whore that just happily knows how to make explosives and make things go boom. And the entire Screwball challenge thing that's happening in the story involves Spider-Man swinging around and racing around Manhattan, finding all the bombs she planted that will most likely kill a lot of innocent people for her own, I don't know, nefarious agenda or self-masturbation. But the overarching problem is that even though Screwball is a D-list villain at best, you is still a normal person who has no powers whatsoever. Therefore, this is unbelievably hard and unbelievably difficult for his character and someone of his stature, and he gets really discouraged due to the very fact that she has a flying hoverboard and is flying at extremely fast speeds, and he really sucks at web swinging, to the point where he actually loses Screwball while in pursuit of her. But being the man that he is and having intelligence and deciding to nut up and take the bitch down by stream sniping her, he's able to find her position because she's streaming this entire event, meaning that I have no clue why the NYPD or whatever law enforcement can't take her down, but it's whatever, because people like to watch other people die for entertainment, and that's the kind of messed up society that we live in, where people do crazy things to get more followers and subscribers to get that cash money. But you was able to catch Screwball, and at this point the bombs weren't even real, and she did all this to get attention because, like I said, she's an attention whore, and Screwball makes an escape on her floating skateboard because it's a floating skateboard, and you is a terrible whip swinger. But that's okay because Cindy Moon aka Silk appears and captures Screwball herself, and the NYPD assumably pick her up to then later follow you back to his apartment to discover that he is not Peter Parker Spider-Man, but he is Spider-Man that's Yu Automata, thus concluding this story arc. But overall, not a lot happened. This is still training wheels for Yu Automata's character, and we're seeing him develop into a better Spider-Man as he's conquered his fear from not web swinging to wanting to web swing to some capacity. And when it comes down to it, the story's pretty good and is still fairly entertaining, showing that once again anyone can be Spider-Man, and only because the Marvel Universe is filled with people with superpowers, you don't necessarily need to have those powers to be someone special within this world, which is an ongoing theme in this book. It's great, it's above average, therefore it gets an 8 out of 10. I really like it.